Hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. In today's video, I want to add another installment to the Busy Dad FAQs section. That is the playlist where I answer frequently asked questions about the Busy Dad program. Check out this playlist for explanations of why we only train for 80 minutes, for how I train back, for all kinds of different elements of the Busy Dad program, what the 4-tiered level system looks like, how to get started, all the questions that you need answered. And in today's video, I want to answer the question that I perhaps get asked most frequently, which is simply, why is there no jump in the burpee movements that you perform within the Busy Dad program? Why no jump? It's a totally fair question to have because most of us, the image we have in our minds of what a burpee looks like, it has a jump in it. And so when you see a channel like mine talking about burpee training, but there's no jump, people very reasonably want to know why not. And in today's video, I want to set out to answer that question. Now, the first thing I want to say is that it really is a historical accident that the Busy Dad program does not contain a jump in the burpee variations we perform. The simple reason initially that there was no jump was that the person I learned burpees from, Iron Wolf, was not incorporating a jump. And since I just wanted to emulate his training method, I didn't put one into my program either. But the more I've come to think about the issue, the more I've come to think that it is a happy accident that there is no jump. I've become convinced that taking the jump out of the equation is actually the best way of performing the burpee from a training perspective. So let me try and explain why. Now, right out of the gate, there's a very important point that we should make about training longevity. When we take the jump out of the equation, we make the burpee a hell of a lot kinder on our joints. And that means, first of all, that the Busy Dad program becomes accessible to older people. But second of all, it means that for people like us, younger practitioners who, like me, intend to be performing burpees every week for the rest of our lives until we cannot do it anymore, it's a very relevant consideration. We have to think about training longevity. And if we're training burpees week in, week out and putting a big jump on the end, that's going to start to tell on the joints over time, and we really don't want that to happen if we can avoid it. So it's got that going for it, out of the gate. But from a purely training perspective, if you weren't thinking about longevity and you were just thinking about bang for your buck in a given workout, I also think that on balance, the optimal variation doesn't include a jump. So let me try and explain why that is. I want to focus particularly on the 6 count because I think that's when people really do expect to see a jump. And I think to get our bearings here, we should remind ourselves that the 6 count is a very versatile movement. We can task it with many different functions. You could totally look to the 6 count for your main upper body activation, for example. But for us here on the Busy Dad program, that's not what we're about. The reason that we program the 6 count is that that is the movement where we look for leg benefits, building leg strength, getting activation across the leg muscles, and cardiovascular benefits. That's the movement that we program to build our fitness. And I think that those two fitness goals, cardiovascular fitness plus leg activation, are best served by a 6 count minus the jump. Now, to start thinking about why that is, I think we should get clear that when we talk about burpees with a jump, there are really many different things that we could be talking about. There's one kind of approach here, and this is something that I know that they do in the British military, where the jump part of the burpee is kind of the main part, where you are jumping as high as you possibly can out of the rep. I think there's a movement called the bastard or bastardo, where it's a 4 count burpee, and on that 2 and that 3 count, you're driving so that on the 4th count, you jump as high as you possibly can, and you perform 10 of those, and you're going to absolutely have a shock to your system. It's going to be an unbelievably effective plyometric movement that's going to activate fast twitch muscle fibers in your legs. I have nothing but respect for that movement, but here's the thing. You are going to accelerate yourself into a zone 5 heart rate very, very quickly. And so it's going to be unsustainable. you're not going to be able to perform many high quality reps of that movement before you're completely gassed out. And so although rep by rep, you're going to get excellent leg activation, you simply won't be able to accrue very much high quality training volume because your whole cardio system will be obliterated by the demands that that movement is placing on your body. So while I think it's an excellent way of, an excellent movement considered in its own right and should be part of any plyometric routine, I don't think we're going to get the optimal balance of cardiovascular fitness training and leg activation. We're going to have to choose between those two goals. Either we perform more of the reps, but the only way we can do that is by decreasing the quality, in which case we get some cardiovascular activation or fitness training, but at the expense of that superior leg stimulus, or we keep the leg stimulus where it is, we make that jump super intense, but then when we're simply not going to be able to stay in the right heart rate zones to get much cardiovascular benefit. An alternative would be to put the jump into the burpee, but not to turn the burpee into a plyometric movement, simply to come a couple of inches off the floor. And that's something that you often see people doing. And I think the problem here is that that slight added jump really is not going to get you that much more leg activation than you're going to get in a standard 6 count, where you just make sure that you stand up super straight out of the count, you open up your hips, you activate your glutes. I think that way of coming out of a standard 6 count versus a tiny jump, there's not that much in it. But what you are going to do is tax your cardio system that little bit too much so that you're not going to be able to stay in that zone 3 to zone 4 sweet spot where I'm training. You're going to find yourself gassed out more quickly, and that's going to compromise your ability to build up that high quality training volume. So that's my ultimate reason for preferring a 6 count where we're taking the jump out of the equation. Okay. As long as we stand up super straight, activate the glutes, open up the hips out of the movement on the 6th count, we're going to get excellent leg activation on that 6th count. It won't be quite as optimal as the leg activation that we would get if we jumped, admittedly. But taking the jump out means that we're going to be able to keep building our cardiovascular fitness through this movement. We're going to be able to stay within a high zone 3, low zone 4 heart rate zone for the entirety of the workout, which is going to have unbelievable effects on our physical cardiovascular fitness. And so I think given those goals, we want leg activation and we want to build cardiovascular fitness, and we've got 20 minutes to do it, and we have to choose the exercise best suited to those goals. I think taking the jump out of the equation is definitely the way to go. And so I hope that answers your questions, my friends, why it is that on the Busy Dad program, we don't bother with jumping. I'm fully convinced that it's completely unnecessary and ultimately slightly counterproductive. I hope that helps. See you all again soon.